After refusing to let my wife's brother move in, I came home to find my belongings dumped in the basement. Her mother sat in the living room and said, "You don't get to control family decisions." My wife said nothing. I tried checking into a hotel, but my corporate card was declined. I called the bank. Turns out, the account owner had been changed. The night everything changed, I came home expecting leftovers and a quiet evening. Instead, I found my duffel bag on the basement steps and my wife's mother, Edna, sprawled across our living room couch like she owned the deed. I stood there, keys still dangling in my hand, as Edna slowly turned her head toward me. She didn't look surprised. If anything, she looked smug. "You don't get to dictate family loyalty," she said. That was the first thing out of her mouth. I blinked. "What's going on?" Edna leaned back like this was some kind of scripted drama she'd been dying to star in. "Dana told us what you said about Devin. You won't let her brother stay here? Fine. Then you don't get to stay either." My throat dried. I looked around for Dana. She stood near the kitchen doorway, arms folded, eyes blank. Not angry, not sad, just distant. "Dana," I said, stepping forward. "You can't be serious." She didn't respond, just stood there like she was watching a stranger's marriage fall apart. "I'm not letting Devin live here indefinitely," I said carefully. "That doesn't mean you kick your husband out." Edna scoffed. "You were never a good fit, Jack. You've always acted like this place was yours, like you were doing Dana a favor by marrying her. But newsflash, this condo was bought by her family. Devin needs help, and you, Jack, are just in the way." I turned back to Dana, desperate now. "Say something, please." Her eyes flicked to her mother, then back to me, still silent. So that was it. I looked down at my bag. They'd packed it like I was a weekend guest who overstayed. "I live here," I said, not yelling, just reminding them. "I pay half the mortgage. I pay the utilities. I bought the damn fridge." Edna gave a cold smile. "And now you can go live in a hotel with your half." I grabbed the bag and walked out without another word. If Dana wasn't going to fight for me, I wasn't going to beg. The local business hotel 2 blocks down still had the same flickering fluorescent light over the lobby. I dropped my bag at the front desk and pulled out my corporate card. "Room for one," I said, trying to sound calm. The clerk swiped it once, then again. "Sorry, sir. It's been declined." That was impossible. I had a travel stipend from work, company funded. I reached for my wallet and tried my personal card. "Declined. You have another one?" the clerk asked, already looking past me. I pulled up my banking app. Password denied. Account locked. I tried another card. Nothing worked. That's when it hit me. She'd locked me out. Not just out of the condo. Out of our entire life. Every shared account, frozen. Every card, canceled. My name erased from our finances in one coordinated move. I stepped outside into the night, clutching a bag of clothes and a useless wallet, realizing too late, this wasn't just a fight. This was an ambush. And I had lost the first battle without even knowing one had begun. Marco's studio apartment was the size of my old walk-in closet. No exaggeration. The only thing separating the kitchen from the bed was a dusty bookshelf full of old cookbooks and mismatched mugs. Still, it was a roof, and right now, that made it a palace. "Make yourself at home," Marco said, tossing me a spare blanket. "Couch pulls out, kinda." "I owe you," I muttered, dropping my duffel on the floor. "Man, you don't owe me anything. Just tell me what the hell happened." I wanted to explain, but the truth sounded insane. So I just sat there, staring at the popcorn ceiling, trying to piece it together myself. Dana had shut me out like flipping a light switch. No warning, no discussion, just click, and I was gone. Around 2 in the morning, after Marco had passed out in bed, I lay on the couch wide awake, phone in hand. I kept replaying it all. The silence in Dana's eyes, the smug look on Edna's face, the way my bag had been sitting there, ready to go, like this had been planned. I opened my banking app again. Locked. I tried our joint account through the credit union. Error. That's when I got serious. I called the bank's after-hours fraud line. Explained I was locked out of my own accounts. The rep's voice was too chipper for the hour. "Sir, I see there's been a recent account change. The primary holder adjusted permissions yesterday and moved all funds into a new account. You're no longer listed." "What do you mean I'm not listed?" I asked, my voice suddenly sharp. "I mean," she said slowly, "you're not on the account anymore. There's nothing I can disclose to you, legally." I hung up, chest tight. Then I checked the credit cards. Canceled. Every one. Our emergency savings zeroed out. The app showed a balance of $4.13. I stared at that number until my screen dimmed. This wasn't about Devin. Not really. That was just the excuse. Dana had gutted our entire financial life in less than 24 hours. Not in a rage. Not in a panic. with preparation. I sat there on that lumpy couch, blanket bunched around my shoulders, feeling like a complete fool. This wasn't a marriage fight. This wasn't a disagreement. This was a surgical strike, and it had been coming for a long time. I just hadn't seen it. But now, lying there in someone else's apartment, broke, locked out, and erased from my own life, I saw it clear as day. They hadn't just kicked me out. They had planned it. And now that I knew, I was done playing dumb. It was around 11 on a Wednesday when I drove back to the condo. Not because I thought Dana would suddenly be reasonable or that Edna had discovered a conscience. I went back because I needed to see it. Needed to know for sure that what I was feeling wasn't just in my head. Dana's car was gone. So was Devin's rusted bike, usually chained to the fence like a lawn ornament nobody wanted. But Edna's ugly tan sedan? Still right there in the driveway, like a warning sign. I didn't knock. I used the side door key I still had, slipping in through the laundry room. The smell hit me first, burnt toast and cheap perfume. Then came the sound, a pan clattering, someone humming off-key. I stepped into the kitchen, and there she was, Edna, wearing one of Dana's aprons like it was a crown, scrambling eggs with her back to me, like she owned the place. "Look who decided to visit," she said without turning around. "I'm still on the deed," I said calmly. She scoffed, flipping the eggs too hard. Sure, on paper, but nobody wants you here." I stepped past her without a word and headed for the basement. She didn't try to stop me. At the top of the basement stairs, I paused. My things were down there. I had to remind myself of that. I had a right to them. This was still my home. I flipped the light on and descended. It looked like a garage sale exploded. Cardboard boxes with my name scribbled in fading marker were stacked sloppily near the washer. My work backpack had been dumped upside down, laptop missing, charger gone. The binder I used for client contracts was wide open on the floor, half the papers crumpled or missing. My winter coat was shoved in a trash bag. My passport and social security card gone. I sank down on the bottom step and stared. It wasn't just mess. This was intentional. They weren't storing my stuff. They were disposing of it. I found my smartwatch cracked in half inside a shoebox. The flash drive I kept all my tax files on? Empty. Wiped clean. They weren't just kicking me out. They were erasing me. From the photos on the walls to the cloud storage account I used for work backups, everything had been tampered with. I picked up an old external hard drive and tried to boot it on my tablet. Error. Format corrupted. I sat there on the cold concrete, something sinking deeper than anger, something heavier. This wasn't about Devin needing a couch. This was a purge. They were clearing the way for a new setup, one where I didn't exist. I walked back upstairs. Edna was still cooking. "Touch my files again," I said evenly, and I pressed charges. She didn't even look up, just said, "You've got 30 minutes to get the rest of your junk. After that, it's going on the curb." I left without answering. I wasn't there to beg. I was there to confirm one thing. They weren't just trying to ruin my life. They were trying to replace me in it. I drove straight from the condo to a strip mall legal clinic, the kind wedged between a payday loan place and a vape shop, the kind of place I used to joke about never needing. The woman at the reception desk barely looked up. "You walkin'? Or scheduled?" "Walkin'," I said. "I need someone good with family law. Urgent." She handed me a clipboard. "Fill that out. Chloe Miles will be with you soon." I didn't know what I expected from Chloe. Maybe someone disheveled or overworked. Maybe someone detached. What I got was a woman in her late 30s, hair in a clean twist, outfit plain but sharp. She looked like she did her job fast and didn't need to explain herself twice. She shut the office door behind me and gestured to the chair across from hers. "So," she said, "tell me everything." I didn't hold back. The basement exile, the frozen accounts, the joint finances she emptied without a word. I told her about Dana, Edna, Devin, the missing tech, the potential identity theft. Chloe didn't interrupt once, just listened and wrote in tight, efficient lines across her yellow notepad. When I finally stopped talking, she clicked her pen closed and looked up. "Do you want to disappear?" she asked. "Or do you want to push back?" The way she said it, calm, almost casual, made it clear that either was a viable option. "I want to fight," I said. She nodded once, like that's what she'd hoped I'd say. "Then we move fast. First, we'll file for an emergency stay of property control. This will freeze Dana's ability to move or sell shared assets. We'll file for exclusive access to the residence, citing tampering, asset disruption, and psychological duress. And we freeze your credit immediately. I'll have a paralegal pull your credit report within the hour." I blinked. "That fast?" Chloe smiled for the first time. "You're already behind. I'm just catching you up." She laid out the paperwork like she'd done this 1,000 times. Probably had. "We're also filing for a digital preservation order. That includes cloud storage, shared drives, texts, and social media. especially if you suspect your work files were accessed. Devin was in the house, I said slowly. He's not above digging. Chloe's pen tapped her notepad once. Then we document everything. You don't reach out to Dana. No contact, not even a text. Let the court do the talking now. I exhaled, shoulders dropping for the first time in days. Chloe stood and offered her hand. We're not rebuilding your life, she said firmly. We're reclaiming it. And for the first time since the night I was locked out, I didn't feel helpless. I felt armed. It started with a phone call at 11:43 p.m. I almost let it go to voicemail. The number was blocked, and I was already lying on Marco's pull-out couch half-dressed and exhausted. But something in my gut said pick it up. Jackie boy, a voice slurred on the other end. How's exile? Devin. I sat up, heart pounding. You're drunk, I said flatly. You'd be drunk too if you had the kind of access I just found. He laughed, the kind of smug, self-satisfied laugh I used to hear when he'd cheat at poker and pretend he'd won fair. You really should have changed your passwords, man. Rookie move. What did you do, Devin? Oh, nothing serious, he drawled. Just browsing through your little work laptop. So many files. So many emails. Think your boss would like to see how sloppy your record keeping is? Might be time for a little HR shakeup. Click. I stared at the phone until the screen went black. Then I was moving, throwing on a hoodie, grabbing the folder Chloe gave me, and bolting out the door. Marco sat up as I passed. Where you going? Police station. He blinked. At midnight. Someone just tried to blow up my job, I said. This is war now. The night desk officer took my statement without much interest, until I mentioned that Devin wasn't authorized to access my work device and might be using it to impersonate me. That got her attention. Files logged, she said, typing quickly. You'll need to report the breach to your employer's IT department and lock your accounts. Already on it, I said, holding up my phone. And I need this incident forwarded to my lawyer. Name, Chloe Miles. The officer gave a low whistle. She's good. I know. By the time I got back to Marco's, Chloe had already replied to my midnight email. Subject, Devin's call. Action required. Jack, we file harassment paperwork tomorrow. Also submitting an injunction request for digital tampering. Forward any login alerts, texts, or voicemails. See, Miles ***. The next afternoon, HR called. Not Devin, HR. We flagged a suspicious login attempt on our internal server, the woman said carefully. Someone tried to access your employment records from a new device and failed two-factor authentication. My stomach dropped. When, about 12 hours ago, around midnight, I closed my eyes. That wasn't me. We know, she said. That's why I'm calling. Your credentials are being locked and reissued. But Jack, is there a reason someone would be trying to get into your records? There was a pause. I think they're trying to get me fired. She didn't ask who. She just said, I'll escalate this. I hung up and texted Chloe. Me. They're trying to get me fired. Chloe, good. Let them try. We just added corporate sabotage to the motion. Thanks, Devin. I sat there, staring at the message. This wasn't just about kicking me out of my home anymore. This was full-blown erasure. But now, I had paper trails, and I was learning fast how to use them. The screenshot came from Marco's girlfriend, Rachel, of all people. She texted it to me late one night with a single line. Is this your mother-in-law? It was Edna. Her profile name, her smug profile picture with a dog that didn't belong to her, and a now viral post on the local Nextdoor feed. Beware of my son-in-law, it read. He abandoned his wife after years of controlling and psychological abuse. Women in Oak Ridge, we must protect each other. She had tagged half the neighborhood, local community leaders, and my employer's HR director. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched so tight it ached. My phone buzzed again. Rachel. I flagged it, but it's spreading fast. You okay? Was I? I didn't even know anymore. I forwarded it to Chloe. 5 minutes later, she replied with a single word. Perfect. She followed up with a longer message. This is exactly what we needed. Defamation, public libel, and targeting your employment. We file for discovery in the morning and motion to introduce this as digital evidence in court. I sat in Marco's kitchen, phone in one hand, coffee in the other, watching my reputation dissolve one click at a time. But Edna wasn't done. Later that night, another bomb dropped. A Facebook video, uploaded by an account called Oak Ridge Truths. It was me and Dana arguing. From months ago, probably February. I remembered the night because I was trying to get her to respond to a notice from our accountant. She didn't want to hear it. In the video, I was raising my voice, frustrated. Dana, off-screen, barely said a word. With the way it was edited, jump cuts, muffled sound, it looked bad. Really bad. Like I was just some unstable guy yelling at his fragile wife. I watched it twice. Then I texted Marco, "Need your help. Bring the external hard drive, the old one." An hour later, we sat side by side on his couch. "This was filmed from the hallway," I said. "That's Devin's angle. It's where he always stood with his phone." Marco plugged in the hard drive. "You said February?" "Yeah, the night after the tax thing." We scrolled until we found the raw home security file, our Nest Cam. It had sound. A full tower block, not some spliced-up nonsense. The real video showed Dana snapping first, swearing at me, shoving the accountant file off the table. Me? I sat there for 5 minutes trying to talk her down before finally raising my voice. "This is gold," Marco said. "We use this, right?" I nodded. "We don't just use it. We build around it. A timeline. Every manipulated clip they try to throw at me, we counter with the original." We got to work, gathering receipts, full videos, call logs, texts, everything with timestamps and context. They wanted a public trial? Fine. Let's put it all on record. They wanted to assassinate my character? Then I was going to show them what a forensic reconstruction of the truth looked like. Chloe was the one who dropped the idea during our Friday check-in. "We need to expand your leverage," she said, flipping through a file. "You said Devin's got a record?" I nodded. "Armed burglary. 5 years ago. Dana said it was non-violent, but he pled out." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "He's on supervised release?" "Pretty sure." "Why?" She leaned back in her chair. "Because if he's living with Dana, and your condo is near a preschool, which, according to Google Maps, it is, he may be violating parole conditions." My heart kicked up. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. Let's find out." That night, I was a man on a mission. I dove headfirst into public databases, county court records, Department of Corrections registries. After 3 hours and a triple espresso, I had it. Devin Michael Trent, convicted in 2020, 2 felony charges, 5 years of supervised release starting in late 2023. Parole conditions listed: no firearms, no alcohol, no residence within 1,000 feet of a school, daycare, or public playground. I checked the county maps again. Our condo? 740 feet from Little Star Preschool. I almost laughed. I printed the records, highlighted the restriction, then pulled up property records and matched the condo address to my name. It was still in both mine and Dana's names, joint ownership. This wasn't just a problem. This was a legal grenade. Around midnight, I got the text. Blocked number. No name. Just, "Back off or you'll regret it." No punctuation. No emoji. Just blunt. And it didn't scare me. It focused me. I sat there on Marco's couch with a pen in one hand and Devin's parole sheet in the other, feeling something shift inside me. Something that had been too quiet for too long. I wasn't afraid of these people anymore. I was furious. They tried to erase me. Now I had the one thing that couldn't gaslight away facts. Chloe called early the next morning. "I read your email. You just changed the game. We'll file a motion for immediate investigation and emergency removal of any ineligible resident. The parole officer will have to be notified." "You think the judge will act fast if they see what I see?" Chloe said. "Yeah, they'll move." I stared out Marco's window at the street below. It was quiet, still, but I didn't feel quiet anymore. They thought they'd win with silence and manipulation, but I learned their tactics. Now I was speaking their language, and this time, I had the law on my side. Family court wasn't glamorous. The walls were beige, the carpet smelled faintly of mildew, and the fluorescent lights made everyone look tired and guilty. But when I sat down at the plaintiff's table beside Chloe, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. Across the room, Dana sat stiff in a navy blue blazer, her face blank. Edna wasn't present, likely advised to stay away. Devin, however, sat behind their attorney in a wrinkled dress shirt, arms folded like a sulking teenager. Chloe leaned in. "He looks nervous." "He should be," I muttered. The judge entered. Gavel tap. Court called to order. Chloe stood first. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just calm, razor-sharp logic. "Your Honor, we are here today not simply to reclaim access to marital property. We are here because my client was exiled, stripped of financial access, and digitally sabotaged. But more importantly, this residence now houses a known felon on supervised release, living within a restricted distance from a preschool, in direct violation of parole terms." The courtroom shifted. Even the judge straightened. Dana's lawyer stood, voice shaking slightly. "Objection. Unrelated to the matter of property division." "Not unrelated," Chloe interrupted. "The presence of Mr. Devin Trent not only endangers the household's compliance with state law, it also threatens the professional and financial livelihood of my client." Then she laid it out, one document after another. Bank statements showing sudden withdrawals. Timeline of account access. Emails flagged by Jack's employer after unauthorized login attempts. A copy of Devin's parole terms. The preschool map. with the property address circled in red, and the social media post from Edna, tagging Jack's workplace with defamatory claims. Dana's side tried to push back. Their attorney brought up a video, one of the edited clips showing me raising my voice at Dana. This, he said, holding it like it was Exhibit A in a murder trial, shows emotional instability. Chloe didn't blink. We have the unedited footage, she said smoothly. The defendant initiated the confrontation. Here's the timestamp, the audio, the full exchange. My client's response? Calm until provoked. The judge accepted the flash drive, then turned to Dana. Ma'am, did you knowingly allow a person under supervised release to reside in your shared residence? Dana hesitated. I didn't realize. The judge held up the parole document. You didn't read this? Silence. I'm issuing an immediate stay, the judge said. Mr. Jack Dillon is to be granted exclusive temporary occupancy of the property until further review. Mrs. Dana Dillon and Mr. Trent are ordered to vacate the premises within 72 hours. Dana's jaw dropped. Devin's chair screeched as he stood up too fast. You can't do that. The judge looked over his glasses. Mr. Trent, sit down or be removed. He sat. The gavel tapped once. Case adjourned. Chloe turned to me, smiling for the first time in hours. That, she said, was textbook. I just nodded, too stunned to speak. After weeks of being erased, displaced, and ignored, the court saw me, and they saw the truth. Devin didn't leave quietly. Not that I expected him to. The day of the move-out, Marco and I parked half a block down, smoothies in hand, just watching. Edna showed up first, already barking orders. Dana trailed behind, clutching a box of God knows what, her eyes darting nervously to the neighbors who had clearly caught wind of the drama. Then came Devin. He stomped down the steps with a gym bag slung over one shoulder and pure rage in his eyes. As if he'd been wronged. As if living rent-free in someone else's house while breaking parole was a constitutional right. That's when the cruisers pulled up. 2 squad cars, slow and smooth. Devin froze mid-step, then took off, like actually ran across the lawn. He didn't get far. One officer tackled him near the hedge. Another pinned him while the cuffs went on. Marco sipped his smoothie. Well, tackled in cargo shorts. That's a rough look. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because for the first time in weeks, I felt something break loose inside me, some tight, ugly knot in my chest finally coming undone. Edna was screaming at the officers, arms flailing like a bad community theater performance. Dana stood frozen on the porch, watching her brother get stuffed into a cruiser like luggage. I didn't get out of the car. Didn't need to. The whole street saw it. The whole street saw what they'd tried to hide. Once the cops drove off and the screaming stopped, I waited until they were gone completely. Then I walked up the front steps, key in hand. The lock clicked like nothing had changed, but everything had. I stepped inside slowly. Silence. The place smelled like burnt toast and synthetic candles. My framed diplomas were gone from the hallway, replaced by one of Edna's needlepoint verses. Family first. I pulled it off the wall and tossed it in the trash. Room by room, I walked through, picking up the wreckage. Trash on the counters. Takeout containers everywhere. A cracked mug in the sink, the one Dana always used for tea. Someone had spilled coffee grounds all over my office floor. The bedroom had burn marks on the carpet near the nightstand. I didn't even want to know, but none of it mattered. Not the broken dishes, not the scratches on the floor, not the photo frames left face down, because it was mine again. I changed the locks before sundown. A locksmith came fast, no questions asked. That night, I sat on the living room floor with a beer in hand, the lights dim, the windows cracked, listening to the night air drift through the screens. There was still a mess to clean up, but it was my mess, and for the first time in months, I slept in my own bed, alone, at peace. 3 weeks after Devin was hauled off in cuffs and the locks were changed, Dana finally filed her response. 50-50 asset division. She wanted half. Half the condo, half the savings, what was left of it, half the retirement. It was so bold I almost admired the audacity. Chloe didn't flinch. She took the petition, slid it into a fresh folder, and simply said, let's go to work. She started with the financials, forensic audits, transaction logs. She brought in a specialist to comb through every shared account Dana had touched, every transfer, every vanishing dollar, every joint expense that led to spa days, Amazon splurges, or mysterious PayPal withdrawals with emoji-labeled notes. We showed how Dana had opened a new account alone, without consent, then moved every dollar before revoking my access. We traced how she'd closed out our emergency fund to pay off her mother's credit card, and how Devin had used my work laptop to attempt unauthorized logins on my employer's system, a clear breach. Chloe filed countersuits for fraud, identity manipulation, and marital asset concealment. And for good measure, she included Edna. civil charges for defamation, employment interference, and harassment. Multiple posts, multiple platforms, tag names, all documented. I don't just want to win, Chloe said, adjusting her blazer the morning of our final court date. I want scorched earth. In court, Dana's lawyer looked shell-shocked, like he'd signed on for a routine divorce and ended up in a war tribunal. They presented that same manipulated video from before, me raising my voice. Chloe played the full footage in response. It wasn't even close. They argued Dana didn't understand the finances. Chloe responded with emails from Dana approving every expense, then screenshots of her texting Edna, bragging about draining the accounts before Jack could blink. The judge was quiet for most of it, just flipping pages, nodding occasionally. His only question? Did the respondent inform the petitioner before transferring marital funds into a private account? Dana tried to speak. Her lawyer stopped her. The answer was no. In the ruling, the judge didn't just grant me the condo. He gave me Dana's share of the remaining marital savings, and due to the fraudulent concealment, awarded me a portion of Dana's private retirement account, which she had hidden under her maiden name. You lied, the judge said, almost casually. And you got caught. Outside the courthouse, Chloe handed me a fresh folder with the stamped court orders. You're officially free, she said. I nodded. I didn't know what to say. For the first time in a long time, there were no more battles left to fight. A week later, I adopted a mutt from the local shelter. Big, clumsy, tail like a wrecking ball. I named him Ledger. He sits by the door now, ears perked, like he's guarding something that matters. I started therapy too, not because I was broken, but because I needed to understand how I missed so much, how silence became my normal. But now, I don't stay quiet. I don't flinch. They tried to erase me with silence, but I answered with evidence, and I got everything back, including myself.